excuse me, can I give you a hypo? Suppose that there's an employer with cash registers, and there's a very extensive process for closing out the cash registers, and that extensive process is to protect against theft. If it weren't for that concern, you could close out a cash register much more quickly. Or the same for bank tellers, or the same for casino dealers, that there's like a 20-minute process, which is essentially an anti-theft security process. And it happens at the end of the shift when the cashier goes off duty. What's the difference between that case and going through security at Amazon?
Well, I think one difference, and I'm not crystal clear that time would not be non-compensable, because I think that's sort of the winding down period, which is, I think, at least potentially within the ambit of preliminary and post-preliminary activities.
Do you know, by the way, before you get on to that, do you know how that's treated under the law? Because I guess my assumption was that this kind of period would be treated as compensable. But if that's not right, let me know.
Well, it's a problem with hypotheticals, because I don't know that particular case has arisen. I would think that would be actually a close question under the Act, because you do have this notion under the Portal to Portal Act that preliminary activities and post-preliminary activities are non-compensable. And that, if you go back to Mount Clemens, which used the term preliminary, that included the sort of wind-up process and might well include this sort of wind-down process at the workstation.
Couldn't you say that closing down the cash register is part of the job? But getting yourself inspected as you leave the place of business is not part of the job. Closing down the cash register is part of the job.
You could definitely say that, Justice Scalia, and I meant to get that as the reason.
You can not only say it seems to me true.
Well, all the better then to say it, which is that this then becomes an easier case than that, because it is part of the egress process, which is really the process of getting from your primary.
But I thought part of Justice Kagan's hypothetical was that the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes is just for anti-theft purposes, or at least I'll interpret her hypothetical that way. It's just for anti-theft purposes. Otherwise, the cashiers, the records and so forth are turned up. But just for anti-theft protection, you need the 20 or 30 minutes. If I can interpret the hypothetical that way, then it seems to me to be the same.
I don't think it's the same. I think it's an arguable case under the Act that it still might be post-preliminary. But I think if you look at the cases that are out there, the courts have struggled a bit with the preliminary and post-preliminary activities to take place at the workstation. Where I don't think they've struggled until the Ninth Circuit decision here is when you're talking about time after you've left the primary workstation and you're in the process of going to the doors.
That would seem to make it depend on a complete fortuity. If I have the cashier walk from with her tray to the manager's station and do the same thing there on the way out the door, there would be one answer, and if she does it at the cashier station, it would be another answer. And that seems not particularly sensible.
Well, there are some not particularly sensible results.